All right, shalom, shalom. It's Brother Yatazdak here of Israel. We're back with another lesson. This is the second installment for the Alep Bayath, the Hebrew words and their meaning, right? And as always, giving honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Mekakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, right? Let's get right into it, right? So this is part of a series, right? Like I said, Alep Bayath, Hebrew words and their meaning, right? So we're going to continue, right? This is page 2, right? And this is just so you can get a little more in depth into the Hebrew, right? Not that that is necessary for salvation, but it's always good to understand, right, what the scriptures say, right? As far as the parables, dark sayings, prophecies, right, the law, right, and the Hebrew as well, right, which goes into it all, right? You're gonna find out that the Hebrew, right, just like the parables and the dark sayings, right, are encoded, right? So you have to um, have that eye salve, right, not just to understand the prophecies, right, and the interpretations thereof, right, but you get a certain you can get a little more in depth, right, if you go into the Hebrew, right, which is what the elders and apostles, Great Millstone, go into, right, the Hebrew and the Greek, right, because it's going to give you more insight, right, as far as what the scriptures say, right. So you have to be able to decode the word, right, first, right, by keeping the commandments of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, right, and having that faith, right, which is first and foremost, right, and as well as seeking the Most High God while He still may be found, right, like it says in the book of Isaiah. Let's get that real quick, right. Salakia. Let's get that in the book of Isaiah. Salakia. Is that 50? Isaiah 55:6. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near. Right? Let's get another precept. Right? So it's about seeking Yahweh Shemel Shai while he still may be found, while you can still get this word, right? The understanding, right? And the insight that comes with it. Right? One more precept. Like scripture say, right, to draw out salvation out of the living waters, right? This is 2 Maccabees chapter 2, and let's start at verse 2 Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 25, and it reads, "We have been careful that they that will read might have delight, and that they that are desirous to commit to memory might have ease, and that all in whose hands it comes might have profit. Therefore to us that have taken upon us this painful labor of abridging, it was not easy, but a matter of sweat and watching, even as it is no ease unto him that prepareth a banquet and seeketh the benefit of others, yet for the pleasure of many we will undertake gladly this great pains," right? Which is, right, in the form of laboring in his word, right, and the things that comes with it, which is the understanding that we have been given, right, starting with our elders that came before us, right. So let's get right into it, right. Salakia, just bear with me. So the first word is anaya, right? Meaning I, right? And you have uh, anaya or anya, right? Which is ship, right? Because right, in the part one lesson, right, I went over the word ana, right, which means when or whence or an occasion, right? Because right, the ships, right, they sail right on occasion according to what? Wind patterns, right? According to where the seas waves are headed, right? Um, you have anak, which is plummet, right? Now a plummet is right, if you understand construction, right? It's sort of a level, right, that you can use, right? Say, let's say this is a 2x4, right? And right, you want a line, right? You want to be able to draw a line, which is going vertically, right? Straight down, right? You're gonna need, right, a plummet, right, which is basically a string, right, with a sort of kind of looks like this. Let's just give it like a little zoom in, right? It's gonna be that line. This is a plummet, right, which is gonna hang straight down. That way you can make your measurement, right? When that string, which is holding it, most of the time it's going to be something like a chalk line, right? So that is a plummet, right? You can look it up. It's not called chalk line. Just look up plummet, right? You can Google it, right? Then you have anakaya, which is meaning I, right? Which is another way to say I. Anaya, anakaya. You have asar, meaning to bind, right? Asam, meaning a storehouse, right? And I believe there's also another word, right? Let's see if I can get that. I know I have it here somewhere. I believe it's in the ba. Slovakia. Let's just type it in the blue letter. See if we can get that. Because there's right. We can just type it in here on Google, but it's actually another word, right? Blue letter Bible, which let's look up to shut, right? So what is that word? Right, we have a sum, right? Then you have atam, right, which means narrow, to stop or to shut, right? Which I believe that's on this page as well. No, it's not actually. Let's see. Let's see. No, it's not. Okay. So I might have to add that on there, right? Because I thought I had no. Okay. So see now let's look at that word, right? Atam, right? Because right, you're gonna find out a lot of times that certain words like atam and asam, right? If that sa, right, it's either gonna be a sa, a sha, or a tha, right? It's going to be in place of what that word actually is supposed to be there, which is the ta, right? Atam, to shut, to close up, to stop, the mouth, the ears, right? Right, in this case, asam, meaning a treasure. Let's just write that down real quick. Atam. Let's look at some precepts, right? First Kings 6:4, for the house he made windows of narrow lights, right? Psalms 58:4, the poisons like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear, right? So to stop, to shut, right? Which is why the word asam, right? And it's written that way because it has a different meaning, right? But in other cases it doesn't. For example, let's get an example because we have plenty, right? Oh, here's another one. That's the spirit, right? You have let's get let me give you a good one. For example, you have let's get let's go further down. Let's see. You have Slovakia, just bear with me. I'm gonna give you just one that's comprehensible, right? Let's get Slovakia. You have paraz, which meaning a breach. You have parataza, right? Right, which means a breach as well, right? I want to give you another one, right? Let's look at actually that's it really. We'll go over them eventually. But Shema Thama, right, just means to be astonished, right? but it also means desolation, right? Shema Thama, right? Well, you'll notice these subtleties, right? If you, right, we're not worried about that, right? Because we understand, right? Scripture, right? So we can know the difference, right? Um, right. So you have a sum storehouse. You have a sap, meaning a collective, right? Which I believe you read about that in the Book of Numbers, right? Referencing the mixed multitude. That is the word for mixed multitude, right? Which really means a collective, right? Which was a collective of the mixed multitude uh, of the nation of Ham that decided to cleave unto Israel, but they were destroyed in the wilderness, right? Because they enticed, right, us unto sin, right? So like you have ap, meaning nose or anger, right? Apad, meaning ephod, right? Which is not the breastplate itself. It was placed under the breastplate. It was sort of like an apron, if you can understand, right? A priestly ornament, right? Which is an ephod, right, is also known, right, as an idol in the scripture, which is really talking about, it's not talking about, ephod just doesn't mean one thing, right? It's talking about an idol adorned with jewels or, right, in any type of way, right, may have clothing made for it, right? And an idol adorned for intercession, right? Which I believe that's in the book of Judges, right? You have a pa, meaning to bake, or a baker, right? Because that kind of, when you're baking, you can smell that, right? The what's what's uh what's being made, right? So to bake or a baker, right? Here's a good one, a Paul, right? Salakia, which means gloominess, right? Then you have a rapal, meaning obscurity, right? So it's similar, right? Um, and you have a pas, meaning an extremity, right, or an end of a thing, right, in certain cases. You have aparach, meaning young birds, right, or nestlings, which sounds like azarach, meaning a native, but it really has no um, they're not cognates, meaning they're not similar in meaning, right? You have a tazabai, right finger, a tazal, meaning beside or next unto or next to, right? Or in the scripture you read about, right, Moses, right, was commanded by the Lord, right, to give the Spirit unto, I believe that was 72 elders in the camp, right? Um, so in that case, a tazal, right, was as in the case of imparting a part of that um, spirit, right, on the elders, right? So it's not just used in one sense, right? You have ataza ada, meaning a bracelet, right? Which is you have several words for bracelet. Like I'm just gonna give you one. Salakia. Taza Taza mayad, meaning a bracelet, right? Or a band, right? Or a tamayad, that's a good example, right? Tamayad, right? Because a band goes, it's a, for example, a rubber band, right? It goes round, right? It's a circle. and it's elastic, right? And you can continually use it. Right? It doesn't break as easily, right? Because it's a band, a bracelet, right? Tazamayar or thamayar, right? Meaning continually, right? Um, so that's another example. Tazamayar and tamayar are cognates, right? Let's look that up, what the cognate means, right? And another example is shara, right? Meaning a necklace or in general a chain, right? Um, which is the you read about it in the book of Exodus, right? A zara, right? Which is a plating, sort of like a Cuban link, right? That's a plating, like a Cuban link, which was the ark was had a plating around it, right? But the za is replaced by the sha, so it's actually shara, right? Which means necklace or chain, right? In this case, you can say tamayar, right? Or you can say ataza aida, right? But let's look up Salaki, what was I gonna look up? Cognate, right? Cognate definition, which says linguistics of a word having the same linguistic derivation as another from the same original word or root. For example, English is, German ist, Latin est. From Indo-European st, the term is obviously cognate with the Malay sagan. Formal, related, connected, cognate subject, such as physics and chemistry, right? In linguistics, a cognate word, or in law, a blood relative. Latin, co, together with, natus, born. Cognatus, early 17th century cognate, right? So these are words that were made together, right? Since the right and the inception of the Hebrew, right? There's another word, inception. Let's get that real quick. Right? Lessons within lessons. Inception, the establishment or starting point of an institution or activity, right? The activity is what? The Hebrew, right? Latin, incepire. Latin, inceptio, inception, right? From incepire, begin, right? That's kind of interesting. Let's look it up in the online etymology, right? To get this word while you can, right? Inception. Early 15th century, a beginning, a starting, from Old French inception and directly from Latin inceptionem, nominative inceptio, a beginning and undertaking, noun of action, from past participle stem of incepere, begin, taken hand, from in, on, sepier, combining form of capir, take, seize, from p root, cap, to grasp, right? Now let's go back to the right. You have Arab, meaning to lie in wait, right? You also have Irab, which meaning it doesn't mean let's get that actually. doesn't actually mean mix, right? I mean, you can use it as mix, Arab, which is what the Arabs are called, but they're really a mingled people, right? Which is what Arab actually means, right? Sakari says it means mixed, but the word for mix is balal, which is in a sense, right, the same thing, which means to mingle. It actually means to mingle, right? Because you have Arab, which is actually called evening, right? Um, it is also known as um, right to right. So Arab, right? Um, because it's called evening because it's during the time when right the light is turned into darkness, right? The mingling of from day unto night, right? Which is also in the Genesis, in the book of Genesis, right? You have Arabah, right, which is another word for desert, but Arabah is also known as the windows of heaven, the interweavings of heaven, right? Because when the Lord calls a flood, right, He calls the skies, the firmament to sort of um, not split open, but to kind of how do you call it? For example, you see in the Matrix, right? You have those all those green numbers, right? So what the Lord did, he calls the right the firmament to kind of how do you say it? Not dissolve, but to kind of um not digitize, but he kind of calls it to right. Let me just give you an example. He calls the right the heavens, right. Well, really, he did cause it to do that, right? Because to interweave, this is what interweaving is when you weave a basket, right? So the Lord calls the firmament to open in this direction, and He calls the open firmament to open in this direction, and in this direction, right? And in this direction, and in this direction, and in this direction, right? You have what's called digitation, I believe, if that is a word or not. Digitation. Let's just give you an example, right? Um, well, you get the idea, right? Um, right. So balal, right, mean to mingle, which is where you get the word babble from, because it means in mingling, right? Which is America, Babylon the Great, right? Because the basically like the I believe like the elder said recently, I believe that was the GMS Dallas camp, right? That this is what Esau does, right? America, Babylon the Great is what Egypt, Sodom, Gomorrah, right? Babylon, right, which is Mesopotamia, which is right Babylon, which is southern Mesopotamia, which and northern Babylon, which is Aram, right, which they were idolaters, right, filthy, and stargazers, right? They were into all kind of folly, right? Um, Divination, right? Observing, right, seasons and nature, right? The original hippies, right? Um, and that's America, Babylon the Great. And Mesopotamia is a Greek word, right? It's really right, it's also known as the Chaldea, right? Which is part of Mesopotamia, which is a Fertile Crescent, right? But it's right, it's all that rolled in one, right? That's America, Babylon the Great. Um, Araba, right, means locust or chimney, right? Which is an airway event interweavings of heaven, right? Salakia. Then you have Arag, meaning a weaver. Then you have Argaman, meaning purple. Uh, Arak, meaning to make long, to lengthen, metaphorically of patience. Aram, meaning to exalt or to lift up, right? And is also, right, synonymous with pride. Then you have Aran, meaning a chest or a coffer, right? Which I recently actually, which is what the Ark is called, right? The Ark of the Flood, but you have the Ark of the Covenant, which is the Ark of the Flood is not really an ark, it's really an enclosure, because that word is taba, right? It's not a ship. It's not called a ship in the Torah, right? It's called a taba, meaning it's the ark or an enclosure, right? Where the hell? I have something else written down. For example, you have Thoran, which is a mast. A mast is what a ship uses, right? So Thoran, Salakia, it's not a ka, that's a na. This is a mast, which is here's a ship and a mast, which is this is wood right here to hold the mast up, and then the sail for the wind, right? Which is a cognate of Aran, meaning a chest, ark, or a coffer, right? Because it has that same shape as a chest. This is a chest. That's really a box, but a chest is going to look like this, kind of like a coffin, right? Or a coffer, right? So coffin isn't always synonymous with death, right? And no, the Israelites were not speaking to the dead in the ark. That's blasphemy. It was the Most High God, right? Um, Commanding them, right, according to the pattern of the ark, according to the pattern of the tabernacle, because these things were to be a testimony unto the nations, right, to confound them in the end, to show that the Lord was dealing with Israel, right, because since the foundation of the world, right, you have the elect, but you also have the wicked, right, which they have always been the wicked, right, they've always been deceived, right. This is why they don't believe Scripture, right, because they read Scripture and then they think, well, they make an excuse. They say, well, they were, Yahushua did miracles, Why were they communicating with something on the chest, on the ark, on the chest, right? Who was communicating with them, and right, that's madness, right? So you have arag, meaning a weaver, or Salaki already went over that. Arar in the chest, you have arar meaning to curse, right? You have parar meaning to break or to shatter, right? You have arach meaning a manner of way, right? Or custom figuratively, or a traveler. Araz a cedar, arya or araya meaning a lion, right? Um, you have Armani Palace. Um, you have Aran, a miswak tree, or Salvador Pisca. You can look that up on your own. I'm not going to look that up. Or a banath, meaning the hare, or a rabbit. Arataza, the earth, right? Or the ball, right? You have the earth itself, the inhabited earth, and then you have the ball, the known, the whole earth, including the non-inhabited earth. So you have the known earth, Arataza, then you have the whole globe per se, the ball, right? The known inhabited earth, right? The whole globe per se. So like, yeah. What did I just click on? That's my last video. You have arash, meaning to enjoin, betroth, which actually means a bed spouse or to espouse, because the word, I believe it's arash, that's the word for bed, right? Or it's another word, right, for bed. You have, that's arasha, arash. But arash meaning to spouse, a spouse, or to espouse a wife, or a bed spouse, to betroth, to enjoy. You have ash, fire, ashad, lowland. Right, let's look that up. Is a lowland a marsh? So yeah, a marsh is a lowland. Lowland, Slovakia. Lowland. Let's just look it up in images. So this is a lowland. It's a place where there may be mountains nearby, and then you just have, it's basically another word for a plain, or a land which is under, not above sea level. Maybe below sea level, right? You have a fire offering, a shah, you have a shak, meaning meaning the testicles. Right? That's in the law, right? Um, he that has his testicles bruised, right? Or there's talking about the animals' offerings, right? You can't offer a blemished offering. You have a shakal, or salakia, you have a shakal, a cluster, a shakar, the a meaning a, shakar meaning a reward or a gift, right? Um, and now rabah means a locust too, right? It also means the outskirts of a city, right, or a desert. Salakia. You have a shawl, a tamarisk, which is a tree. You can look it up, Google it. A sham, a trespass. Pashai, meaning a transgression. Nashah, meaning to neglect. I believe there's another word. Let's look up. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Pashai also means to rush or to invade, right? Because that's what you do when you transgress, to intrude, invade. It's a cognate of patazai, pashai, which means a wound, right? Patazai, to scatter. Yatazai, meaning to spread out. Or natazai, right? So that means wound, right? Pashai, transgression, rush, intrude, invade, right? You're welcome, right? You have a shamanium, which is a wasteness, right? Or it's another word for a desert, basically, right? So with that, this is part 2, right, of the lesson, right? And Lord willing, you were edified, right? This is the Alep Bayath, part 2 of the Hebrew words and their meaning. And as always, giving honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Makakwadash, double honors to the elders and apostles, great millstone, Spread Tazadak, hero of Israel, Kwame Yasha'Allah, Abavad Ball, Slaki Abad Ball, and Shalom.